This reading is called Golf Balls and Beer. A professor once stood before his philosophy class, and when the class began, he silently picked up a very large, empty jar and proceeded to fill it with golf balls. He then asked his students if the jar was full, and they all agreed that it was. The professor then picked up a box of pebbles, and he poured them into the jar, and then he shook the jar lightly so that the pebbles rolled into the open areas between the golf balls. He then asked his students again if the jar was full, and they agreed that it was. Well, next, the professor picked up a box of sand, and he poured it into the jar, and the sand filled up the remaining space. And he asked his students once more if the jar was full. And entertained, and perhaps a little irritated, his students responded with a unanimous yes. Well, the professor then produced 2 cans of beer from under the table, and he poured both cans into the jar, effectively filling the empty space between the sand, and everyone in the room was cracking up. Well, now, said their professor as the laughter subsided, I want you to recognize that this jar represents your life. The golf balls are the important things. Your family, your children, your health, your friends, and your favorite passions. And if everything else was lost and only they remained, your life would still be full. The pebbles are the other things that matter, like your job, your house, and your car. Well, the sand is everything else. It's the small stuff. If you put sand into the jar first, there's no room for pebbles or the golf balls. And the same goes for life. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you'll never have room for the things that are the most important. So pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness, he said. Play with your children. Take time to get medical checkups. Take your spouse out to dinner. Go see the latest movies or even play another 18 holes. There will always be time to clean the house and fix the disposal. Take care of the golf balls first, the things that really matter. Set your priorities, because the rest is just sand. Well, one of the students raised her hand and she inquired what the beer represented. And the professor smiled and he said, I'm glad you asked. It just goes to show that no matter how full your life may seem, there's always room to grab a drink with a good friend. And tonight, you get to celebrate with family and lots of good friends. So congratulations, you two.